Hello and welcome back to another fun episode of Minecraft. This episode's gonna be a little bit different. As you guys know, Minecraft isn't exactly getting fun anymore. Excuse me. So I've been trying to figure out ways to spice it up while still playing it for you guys. Doing Q&As in the beginning. Now me and a good buddy Ed are doing a podcast, and I thought, well, if me and him are both doing a podcast, why not talk a little bit about something that's been going on? I want to say back in April, a couple months ago, to help out a couple of friends, I became ordained through ULC, the Universal Life Church of California. Excuse me, anyone can go and become an ordained minister. But the one thing that I think is kind of cool and kind of stupid is the fact that now my email, I get a Universal Life Church email every week telling me about some religious activity. Sorry, my computer went off. So, in this episode, I'm going to try not to swear. Because with this, I am not Nightshader. I am Reverend Hayden. I am Reverend Nightshader. So, what happens is we get a newsletter about what has been going on in the world. And my email was legitly labeled, "Don't burn after reading." And here's the opening statement to it, and it's called The Visionary. So, this week, The Visionary takes a look at the world on fire. From the blazing debates over the resistive abortion law in Texas, to the violent Taliban takeover in Afghanistan, and the witches using magic to slow them down, to the Pope's dire warning about the warming planet. We can feel the heat from here. That is the opening statement. Now, I am going to have a link down below to the Visionary so you can see where to go. I'm going to leave the ordainment. I'm going to leave everything down below where you can go to get ordained, and yeah. And when things happen, like I am looking at getting the Wiccan package plus the Wiccan stuff so I can also perform Wiccan weddings. So the first article I have is Hex the Taliban. Little story up front what they have for the article's name. They've hexed Donald Trump, they've hexed Brett Kavanaugh, and they've hexed the police. Now these witches are gathering online to hex their greatest enemy yet, the Taliban. And the little button that takes you to the article is, will it work? Oh man, it's a long one. But I'll start reading, I guess. Witchcraft has long been harnessed as a force of change, with its deep and storied history, and one not short of controversy. Witchcraft and Wiccan beliefs continue to have a strong presence even today. Time to add a new chapter in the story. Spellcraft specifically targeting the Taliban. An online community has been organized to use magic as a force of combat Taliban fighters who now control the majority of Afghanistan, following the U.S.'s withdrawal from the country. Heading, Hexing the Taliban. Organized primarily in the social media website Reddit and the online chat client Discord, witches from across the globe are turning their sights on an oppressive Islamic group. The idea of the anti-Taliban mass hexing came when a user posted on Reddit about organizing such an event shortly after the fall of Kabul. Users called for protection blessings for women, girls, journalists, interpreters, and innocent now trapped with the Taliban at the door. Although the idea caught on quickly, another post warned about the possible dangers of hexing the Taliban. arguing that they are very spiritually aware, and they routinely take steps to dispel, ward off, and weaken magic. They have incarnations and rituals of their own which can, at very least, neutralize us. At worst, they can cause damage to our spiritual selves. An anti-Taliban witch ultimately moved to a private platform, Discord, to cut down on trolls, where they now share different spells and sigils that they believe will hurt the Taliban and help protect young women in Afghanistan. They want to make clear that they're not anti-Allah or any other god for that matter. One user said that there's no fighting any figures from many of the Arabic religions, and that contrary to popular belief, we don't want to put Allah in a Faraday cage. They merely want to keep people safe from religious extremists and are doing what they can to help the worthy cause. Next one. Rise of the Witches. It's not the first time the Wiccan community has harnessed magic to fight a perceived threat. You might remember a group of witches that fought Make America Great Again, with magic, hexing Donald Trump by casting spells and burning many effigies of the former president in an effort to limit his power and ultimately remove him from office. While the jury is still out on whether or not they were successful, they say yes and point to President Trump's impeachments, loss of the 2020 election, and positive COVID-19 diagnosis as proof. Witchcraft has been an accent in the last few years. It's been on the ascent for the last few years, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Those beliefs can be particularly appeal to women and the LGBTQ people who often feel ostracized and unwelcome in traditional faiths. It should be no surprise then that these individuals are focusing their energy on helping other persistent and marginalized individuals. They even came out in full force last summer to support the Black Lives Matter movement, united virtually to hex the police and the individuals responsible for the George Floyd death. As a historical persecuted minority themselves, witches are largely empathetic towards social justice causes. One popular TikTok user who identifies as a witch explains that witches or practicing people are using their power to help aid in healing and protecting people of color. For anyone affected, some witches are also taking advantage to the great energy to hex the oppressors. Many witches view their hexes as no different than Christian prayer. After all, it's a community of like-minded people organizing their thoughts to affect positive change in the world, as it is different from a church full of Christians bowing their heads as a pastor leads them in prayer. That being said, there's a few things I want to touch on here. One, I'm glad to hear from this community that they are not looking to cage a god, because that would physically be impossible, and to cut off anyone's worship or connection to that god, that is a punishment on of itself. But just because I am a Lutheran, I do understand the power of prayer. I mean, I prayed every day, and my stepdad came into my mom's life, and he's been in mine now for the last 16 years. I mean, this is a very interesting article because they even say that witch and Wiccan are starting to become more and more of a prominent religion, a prominent group, and It's kind of like, and not to make it sound stupid, like Jedi over in the UK. They actually have a religion over in the UK and London where you can actually be a Jedi or a Sith. You can actually have that as your religion. That being said, the whole hex the Taliban, I don't know how that would work. Saying that they hexed Donald Trump, I can wholeheartedly believe that, because not a lot of people liked him. The police I can see because of the several different things that happen. I can believe in magic and believe in hexes and all that, but what I don't understand is why they feel they need to come out in force like this now. I mean, it just doesn't seem very normal, that's all. So, yeah, I'm going to go back now, because there are several articles in here, and I know this might be boring to you guys, but the people who are also like me, who have it and read this, they actually like, I want to have people talk. Okay. Oh boy, yep, this one's going to be a big one. It's bigger in Texas, especially the punishment for having an abortion. Anti-abortion activists are taking a victory lap after the state's controversial new abortion law took effect. Not everyone is cheering, however. What happens now is the entry into this. And here's the thing. Here's what pisses me off. And I am saying pissing is not a swear word. I don't know why the government has to get involved with this. It is between the woman, the father, and their God, and whoever's practicing this, practicing abortions. It's between them. It's not the government's. It's not the government's problem to be like, oh, that person's having an abortion. No, that person's doing this. Oh, that person's doing that. If it's not affecting you, fuck off. Damn it. Dang it. But it's, sorry, trying to do my best. But it's along that line. And I know this article is just going to tick me off. Because here's the thing, if it's a woman who, like my sister, who had a miscarriage, do you want her to carry that festering dead body in herself until she dies, just so she can give birth to it? Okay. Evangelicals cheered Texas abortion law. God bless Texas. That's the title of this, and it's actually a... Oh boy, it's a longer one. Okay, let's get... The U.S. Supreme Court recently declined to hear a case challenging a new abortion law in Texas, basically allowing the provinces to go to the law and prompting increased new debate over the already fraught subject. The Texas law bans abortion after the heartbeat is detectable in the fetus, which typically occurs around 6 weeks, before most women know they're pregnant. Other controversial features of the bill include no exceptions for rape and incest, and a promise allowing private citizens to sue any practice or private individual who helps a woman obtain an abortion. It is effectively the strictest anti-abortion law in the United States. Pro-choice activists were up in arms over the new law and the Supreme Court narrow decision. On the other side, pro-life groups and evangelicals, among the loudest voices pushed for such restrictions, were ecstatic. Now we have in our bulletin, God bless Texas. God bless Texas tweeted Franklin Graham, when the law went into effect at midnight on September 1st. And there's actually a Twitter thing here that says God bless Texas. At midnight, a new law went into effect in the state banning all abortions after the heartbeat is detected from a baby in the womb. Since Roe v. Wade, no other law has protected the lives of unborn children in the womb more than this one. Senate Bill 8 was signed by law in Texas Governor Greg Abbott in May of this year and has been seen legal change after legal change. Abortion providers and pro-choice groups fought tooth and nail to have it overturned to no success. Finally, in late August, Planned Parenthood filed for an emergency appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court just days after the bill was to take effect, requesting that the nation's highest court block the law. In a 5-4 decision, they declined to hear the case, leading to the now near-total abortion ban in the Lone Star State. It's estimated the new law will prevent up to 85% of abortions in Texas. Pro-life activists in Texas were excited for the news. To say the least, CEO of Texans for Life Coalition, Kayleen Wright, said it is an unimaginable joy to watch Roe crumbling in front of our very eyes. As the quote indicates, anti-abortion advocates see this as another stepping stone to overturn Roe v. Wade and the landmark 1973 support case decision that qualified the legal right to an abortion. And with the green light from the Supreme Court, other states have already signaled their intention to craft similar restrictive laws. New Bulletin. Is it un-American? One Christian who isn't thrilled about the new law, President and devoted Catholic Joe Biden, who lambasted it in a wildly unconstitutional. He says who lambasted it and said it was widely unconstitutional. A quote from the president. This extreme Texas law blatantly violates the constitutional right established under Roe v. Wade and upheld as preceded of nearly half of a century. My admiration is deeply committed to the constitutional right established by Roe v. Wade nearly 5 decades ago and will protect and defend that right. As a Catholic, Biden is personally opposed to abortion, but is in favor of reproductive rights and doesn't feel he has the right to impose his view on the rest of society. See, someone with a brain in his head. I respect those who believe life begins at the moment of conception and all. I respect that. I don't argue. I don't agree. But I respect that, said Biden. And I actually just sound like him. But he argues that the highly restrictive Texan law is almost un-American. In a view that has caused a serious rift between the president and his church, as many Catholic faith leaders have sought to deny Biden communion over the stance on abortion, some have even successfully carried out the threat. What do you think how should Christians view the new law? Well, as I said, and as the president has said, I don't believe in abortion, but at the same time, it's not up to me. It's not my body. It's not my soul up for this. And it also says in the Bible, King James, any of them, that you do not start life until God breathes life into you. You do not start life. I mean, think about Lazarus and Jesus. The soldiers came and killed Lazarus. Jesus came to him and called for him, and then Lazarus came back to life. You have to wait for the Lord to breathe life into you. Yes, at 6 weeks, you get a heartbeat, but I guarantee you, if you have that kid right then and there, it will not survive. It can't breathe on its own. It needs help. It needs to cook longer. Plus, as it said in the article, you don't know, some women don't even know until up to at least week 6. If a doctor says, well, you're 6 weeks pregnant, you're screwed, and it was from rape or incest, something that happens more often than not around this country, it's so bad. And here's the sad thing. Apparently, and this is a law now, if a man rapes a woman and she is pregnant and the guy is in prison, he has a say of what happens to that child. If it is aborted or if he is allowed visitation rights. That is sick. That is ungodly. That is sick. I didn't think God had to write it in the Bible, but guess what it said? Guess what it should say? Thou shalt not fucking rape. Again, sorry for the swear, but still, it's how hard is that? I hope whatever rapist who did that stuff, do unto others as you wish to be done unto you. I hope he gets raped in prison. And the guy whispers in his ear, I hope you enjoyed what she got. And then have him crying in a shower. I've seen people who got raped. It is not a pretty sight. And then you have to find out that that animal, that demon, left something inside you that was now growing and would look half like them. To have that is not only a physical torture, it is a mental torture. And I agree with the president. I don't have to agree, you don't have to agree with it, but what you do have to do is understand this is not up to you. And and with Roe v. Wade, this does seem unconstitutional. Oh boy. Okay. I got this yesterday, I haven't even looked at it. Next article. Holy fans. Is God actually pro-pornography? I kid you not. In the war on porn, whose side is God on? Some evangelicals say that God hates porn, but some sex workers say that their Christian faith actually empowers them to take their clothes off. The visionary disrobes the war on the war on porn. Well, here's the thing. There are saints in the Catholic Church that were actually supporters of prostitutes, working girls, and of sex workers. So it's like, okay. So kind of, God is on the side. God, through his saint, is kind of for porn. Does God hate porn? Evangelicals take on OnlyFans. Don't even know what the heck an OnlyFans is. And and this one's a long one too. And then I think the last article is going to tick a lot of people off. Okay, so let's get started. You may have heard about an online subscription service, OnlyFans, declaring a few weeks ago that they intended to ban all sexual explicit material from their website. Considering that OnlyFans is basically synapses with pornography, banning sex workers from the very platform they helped build was puzzled over and criticized heavily by users. When asked why they made such a seemingly self-destructive business move, OnlyFans CEO Tim Stokey said, "The short answer is banks. Banks and lenders would cite disputable risk and refuse our service," he stated. "We had no choice." Just days later, OnlyFans reversed its pornography ban after some of its banking partners changed their tunes. They said it's worth explaining why those banks were feeling pressure to drop OnlyFans to begin with. Experts say part of the answer is a long-time campaign by some evangelical Christians to shut down the pornography industry altogether. Bulletin: Does God hate porn? From the internet's largest proprietors of titillating material, the writing may have been on the wall as early as last year. That's when MasterCard and Visa severed ties with Pornhub after several evangelical organizations petitioned them to do so, arguing that unverified videos on their platform might depict children or victims of sex trafficking around without the platform ever knowing. Pornhub tightened its policies and scrubbed thousands of unverified videos, ultimately restoring its status with their payment processors, leaving anti-porn activists frustrated. Going after banks and payment processors? Yeah, I can't get that word. Is part of the latest coordinated anti-porn campaign on Christian activist groups like Exodus Cry and National Center on Sexual Exploitation, NCOSE. From strip clubs to pornography websites, they want to ban sex work entirely and are targeting payment processes to make their porn-free vision a world come to light. NCOSE touted its own role in OnlyFans' brief ban on sex workers, saying the announcement made by OnlyFans that it will prohibit creators from posting materials with sexual explicit conduct on the website comes after many adversary from NCOSE survivors and allies. And next bulletin, of strippers in Scripture. Not all people of faith view pornography as morally wrong. However, for example, prominent OnlyFans creator Nina Marie identifies as a Christian. Her belief is that Jesus would have loved sex workers. Many men and women in the adult industry have turned away from the church and Christianity because of the shame and judgment they receive from Christians. She says, I believe that this is not at all what Jesus would have wanted. And there's a picture of her, and underneath is a caption, would Jesus support stripping on OnlyFans? One online model thinks so. Nina Marie has a popular account on the adult website where creators can sell nude images and videos of themselves directly to fans who subscribe to their page. Marie also happens to be a devoted Christian who believes she was called to this type of work. In a statement, she explains that God tells her to strip it off and that Jesus would have loved sex workers. There is a see more. Yes, there is. But others reject the idea that God would encourage women to sell their bodies online, arguing the immoral practice that goes against Jesus' teaching. Religious voices on social media have since branded Marie as a delusional grifter that has Satan in her ear. These critics have were briefly excited that OnlyFans announced recently it would be banning explicit sexual content on the platform, only for the company to reverse the decision days later in a backlash from fans and creators. Moral debate aside, one thing is certain: it can be lucrative work. After living on food stamps at one point in the past, Nina Marie reportedly pulled in over $1 million last year selling nude content on OnlyFans. She now coaches other women how to follow in her footsteps, helping them earn tens of thousands of dollars a month themselves. That's interesting. Okay, from Nina, her sexuality is back to the article. From Nina Marie, her sexuality is intertwined with her faith, an empowering gift from God above. I asked God if I should continue stripping it off, she said, and the answer was always yes. She not She's not the only fan performer who prays at night. We previously know about a devout Catholic woman who reportedly makes over 6 figures a month on OnlyFans. She insists God doesn't judge her for her work, and that He will love you no matter what your profession is. And then the last bulletin, the war on porn. For anti-porn activists, pornography content online is nothing less than an outrage. But as the internet becomes more ubiquitous and pornography easier to access, even for children, frustrated anti-porn evangelicals have felt they're slowly losing the war. And with the American attitude on sex and nudity becoming more laissez-faire, the anti-porn war seems almost entirely lost. It isn't until a tactical pivot. Activists are now reframing the argument against online pornography to be about quelling sex abuse and human trafficking, rather than general moral decay. But centering the anti-porn argument around something inarguably evil, activists hope to make better progress. Those organizations point to numerous reports about alleged victims as proof that websites like Pornhub and OnlyFans only feed to child sexual exploitation, including a BBC report that found several underage girls selling sexual explicit material on OnlyFans, having successfully bypassed OnlyFans' own age verification system, which isn't hard. With OnlyFans receiving a recent reversal back to the pornography-based platform, the NCOSE vowed increased criminal scrutiny over reports of filming children, child sexual abuse, sex trafficking, and other non-consensual recorded sex acts being sold on its website. What do you think? Where do you see the war on porn going from here? As I said in the beginning of this is a gray area because God does have a saint of pretty much whores, prostitutes. So it's not hard to believe, yeah, he's technically for this. And this didn't even bring God into it half the time. But they're like what Nina Marie said. God tells her, yeah, take your clothes off. And that other lady, I forget her name, God doesn't, she's right. God does not care what you do down here. He cares, but he doesn't. You follow the commandments. You don't do anything outrageously stupid. And he'll welcome you into heaven. And if not, in my Lutheran religion, we believe that if you repent and say, I'm sorry, and actually mean it to Jesus, Jesus will forgive you and you're welcome into heaven. So, also, these women are making very good money doing what they're doing. I mean, right now where jobs are, like, you can go outside and get 3 of them right now for $1.50. It's not hard to be like, okay, yeah, I need a job. And if you can't leave your house, it's like, okay, I'll take my clothes off. Easy. And men nowadays were such sexual deviants and so such sexual creatures that, heck, you tell me that there's a woman online right now who will strip for me for $5. I will have $5 in her hand so fast the bill is smoking. And that's just if I'm bored, not anything else. And now I think I have one last article, and then I believe we're done for the, I think that's done for the email. And there are, God, so many, yeah, there are actually, there are actually 2, but I doubt I'm going to have enough time. If anything, I will do both. Let's go to the one that's going to be the most offensive first because it does tick me off. Just seeing the picture. Christ the communist. Was Jesus a communist? That's what the head of Russia's Communist Party thinks. He says Jesus was the first communist, and he's got biblical evidence to back up his argument. What the scripture says. Before I even get into this, I do not fully like communists, nor do I hate them, but I will not say that a man of love, a man of peace, should be put into the same category of political and political government usage, like dictatorship or democracy, like that of Joseph Stalin, who killed millions of people through hunger, had Cannibal Island, and the gulags where people were just destroyed and killed. So, the title of this, Comrade Christ. Communist leaders say Jesus was first communist. Was Jesus a communist? That's what the head of Russia's Communist Party thinks, drawing numerous links between communism and Christ's teaching. I am not even going to try these names. I'm going to go one time and that's it. Gendry Zivangov argued in the recent interview that Jesus was actually the very first communist. Put Jesus' sermon on the mount, and the moral code of the builder of communism next to each other, and you will just gasp. Zivangov said, "We need to study the Bible. Rolling between Jesus' teachings and communism is more popular than some think. Christian communism is a theoretical viewpoint that holds that the first Christians, including the apostles, practiced their own form of communism, and that Jesus himself imposed communistic policies. Of course, some strongly push back against the idea that Jesus would seize the means of production and argue he was actually a strict capitalist. So, was Jesus the first communist? Let's examine the evidence. New Bulletin, Comrade Christ. Christian communists would empathetically say yes, and they've got the scripture to back up their claims. They frequently cite Acts 2:44-45 and Acts 4:32-35 as proof that early Christians practiced an early form of communism, living communally, sharing possessions, and redistributing wealth. All the believers were one at heart and mind. No one claimed that any of the possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. From time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales and put it in the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to everyone who had need. That was a quote from the Bible, I think. It also points to numerous seemingly anti-wealth passages in the Bible as proof that Jesus was an anti-capitalist. You cannot serve both God and money. It is easier for the camel to go through the eye of this needle than for a rich man to enter a kingdom of God. The love of money is a root of all kind of evil. The list goes on. It's hard to argue with that, or is it? Now we go on to the next part. Jesus is the capitalist. Well, there's one very, very famous Christian leader who can disagree. Can a Christian be a communist? I answer that question with the empathetic no. These two philosophies are diametrically opposed, said Martin Luther King Jr. in a 1962 sermon. The basic philosophy of Christianity is unaltered opposed to the basic philosophy of communism. King also stated that because there are no fixed, immutable principles, things are forced, violent, murder, and lying are accepted means to an end for the communists. actions King obviously personally opposed. King also preached, again, that he viewed as a materialist and godliness of communist societies. Still, he praised the post-class ideals of communism as well as their concerns of the social justice of eliminating racism. Many modern Christians argue that communism and socialism endorse theft, saying that although the Bible encourages charity, it does not enforce it. Instead, they say the Bible is explicitly pro-capitalism. To say the might point of Genesis 1:28, which says that we are to subdue the earth and have dominion over it, or that they might point to 2 Corinthians 9:7, which says that each man should give what he has decided in his heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion. As it is often the case of disagreement like this, both sides think God is on their side. What do you think? Was Jesus a capitalist, communist, or something in between? First off, this is... Oh, God. Sorry, Lord. This is bad because of one sad thing. No one knows what Jesus was fully like. We have a Bible written by man, but man says it was written by God. Or they were stories of God in Jesus. But here's the thing. Who cares what he was? He came to earth, the Son of God, the only Son. He came to show us love, compassion, and then he died for our sins. He sent that message. Who cares about what he thought, what he tried to prove? Did you get the frickin' message? Love thy neighbor as thou loves themselves. And love them as you have loved me. You think people would get off their high horse and just be like, okay, yeah, we don't need to argue about that. Let's figure out how to make the world a better place. Let's see if we can't help the orphanage down the block. And then our last story. And I know, guys, I'm sorry that this episode's a long one, but I will be doing this once a week or once a month for you guys whenever I get the new stories. And again, everything will be down below. Yeah, everything will be down below so you guys can come in here and look at the articles yourself and see the other articles. In the article itself right now, looking at the very bottom of related blog posts to the Comrade Christ article. One says, Satan's charmed Catholic bishop resigns after falling for the author of Satanic Erotica. U.S. Army to allow Christian soldiers to grow beard. Converse releases Satanic shoe with pentagram logo. The secret church using psychedelics as sacrament. Women in the draft. Senate proposes running into biblical oppression. And this one I think is funny. My vagina has to breathe. Mormon woman protests uncomfortable temple garments. So those are a few. Those are a few that we have. And then our last story. It's getting hot in here. So take off all your robes, ? Pope Francis teams up with other faith leaders to issue an urgent warning about climate change. Will his alert message make a difference? See what he had to say. So, here we go. This is the last story. Faith leaders team up to issue dire climate change warning. Under a picture of him, Pope Francis believes that climate change is one of the most pressing issues facing humanity today. On to the article. In the most hype crossover this side of the Avengers, Pope Francis, Archbishop Justin Webley, and Angelic Communion and Ecumenical Partridge Bartholomew I recently teamed up to take on what they viewed as one of the most pressing issues facing the planet today. No, not Thanos, rather the Pope, Archbishop, and Partridge, Patriarch, I have no idea how to pronounce that word. Avengers assemble to issue a dire warning against a different enemy, climate change. Oh, this one's a nice short one. All right. The sin of climate change. The extreme weather and natural disasters of recent months reveal afresh to us with great force and a great human cost that climate change is not only a future challenge, but an immediate and urgent matter of survival. Read their statement to the delegates of an upcoming UN climate change summit. We must decide what kind of world we want to leave to future generations. Listen to the cry of the earth. The three global leaders of Orthodox Christianity cited the immense urgency of the problem when making the statement, arguing that corporations must make short-term sacrifices to safeguard all of our futures, and a need for global cooperation, lest the earth cease to exist as we know it in another generation or two. The urgent need to address climate change was also framed by the three holy men as an injustice committed by the rich upon the poor. These people bearing the most catastrophic consequence of these abuses, they said, are the poorest on the planet, and they have been the last responsible to cause them. As if to underscore this message, a series of recent environmental disasters have killed innocent people and caused millions of dollars in damage around the globe, from Hurricane Ida's path of destruction across the United States to brutal heat waves in Italy. The Pope's message appearing to coincide with the planet showing signs of turmoil. Papal pleas ring out. That's the next caption. This isn't the Pope's first time taking a more active role on global issues he sees as particularly pressing. Since it's been available, Pope Francis has routinely encouraged people to take the COVID-19 vaccine, calling taking the shot an act of love towards your fellow human being. Addressing the threat of climate change is similarly the issue close to the Pinfor's heart. Pope Francis is expected to attend the Climate Change Summit in November, and he's issued increased dire warnings on the need for urgent action now to address climate change. On Earth Day earlier this year, he said that we are at the edge, and an action is required now to secure a just, equitable, environment-safe planet for future generations. What do you think? Can climate change be understood as a sin committed by the powerful upon the weak? Are faith leaders right to speak out on issues of all? And yeah, I mean, technically this planet's just as much as God's who created it as it is ours. A political person can talk about, why can't a religious person? I mean, think about it. God did not spend several days to create this just for us to destroy it the very next second. So it's along that line. That and gotta stretch. That and Pope Francis having a large audience who he can actually pull in and be like, come talk with me about this. How can we fix this? And so many people who will listen to him because of his religious power and background, it's understandable that maybe he might get through to these people like, hey, we gotta fix this. And saying that the rich are doing this to the poor, I'm not exactly rich, but I drive a 2004 Chevy Tahoe. I'm adding to the bill on the environment just as much as anyone else. I mean, there are several ways that have been proven we could fix the problem, but yeah. So Okay, so without further ado, that is the entire email. So if you guys have any questions about this or want to read the articles yourselves, look down in the comments down below, in the description down below where it will be posted. Also, you can easily contact me here on the comments, and we can actually have a nice little discussion about it. If I get enough discussions, maybe we can even make a video on the questions or statements that were said. So, without further ado, thank you for watching. If you liked it, leave a like down below, subscribe today, and please remember, have fun playing in the dark. Go with God, my children. Night.
AudioMicro.com